My name is Jim Kraft. I represent the 1st Council District. We're here this evening for an informational hearing on Council Resolution 150220R. This is a hearing of the Judiciary and Legislative Investigations Committee. I'm joined this evening by, to my immediate left, Councilwoman Helen Holton from the 8th District. She is not a member of the committee, but she is the principal sponsor of this resolution, and we'll hear from her momentarily. We're also joined this evening by Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark, the 14th District, Vice Chair of the committee. To my immediate right is Ms. Marguerite Murray, staff to the committee, and to her right is Ms. Kara Kunst, representing the President of the Baltimore City Council, Bernard Jack Young. We're also joined today by Mr. Nicholas Bundy, representing the Mayor of the City of Baltimore, Stephanie Rawlings Blake. And our other folks will introduce themselves as we go along this evening. This is a resolution that was, well, before I do that, one housekeeping thing. Ladies and gentlemen, this hearing is being televised on TV 25. So if you have any type of electronic device, please put it on silent, mute, turn it off, whatever. And if you do feel that you have to call someone, please step out into the lobby and do that in deference to those who are speaking and those who are listening this evening. Thank you very much. This is a resolution that was introduced on March 30th, 2015 by Councilwoman Holton. It was co-sponsored by the President, Council members Kraft, Henry, Middleton, Costello, Scott, Rice, Singer, Curran, Welsh, Clark, Spector, Stokes, and Mosby. And it's for the purpose of requesting that representatives from the Department of Public Works and other city agencies working to make Baltimore cleaner appear before the Council to discuss the city's plans for cleaner streets and neighborhoods, the current results of this plan, and what additional steps can be taken to progress towards a cleaner Baltimore. We're also joined by Councilman Bill Henry, who just stepped out again from the 4th District. Councilman Henry is a member of the committee. Before I proceed with the agency reports, and this bill was referred to 4 agencies, Public Works, Housing, Health and Recreation and Parks, I'm going to turn this over to Councilwoman Holton for any remarks that she would like to make. Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. I want to begin by saying that I believe that our employees who are charged with keeping the streets clean do the best they can to do the job that they've been hired to do. I don't know where the disconnect arises, but what I do know is that more and more frequently citizens approach me wondering whatever happened to street sweeping, or when the trucks come, they don't sweep, or they come and they zigzag in and out because cars are parked there, or they just think the streets are not as clean as they used to be. And repeatedly I've attempted to explain that the city created a new program to get the majority of the streets in Baltimore City swept and kept clean. And so I just decided, in hearing some of my other colleagues with the same lament, that maybe it was time to bring this to a hearing so that citizens could come out, those who are at home could tune in at home, and that we could hear what the plan is, how it's working, what are the challenges, what are the solutions to the challenges, and just what has transpired since this was to have gone into place last spring to comprehensively sweep the majority of the streets, including secondary streets in Baltimore City. So I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing, and look forward to finding out and getting more information, because for quite some time I did put this on my newsletter that went out, all of the information, the quadrants, and when to expect it. And I just think that it's maybe in theory was a great idea, but in reality isn't reaching the goal that was anticipated when it was put into place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We have also, excuse me, we have also been joined by Councilman Warren Branch from the 13th District, member of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman. The bill was referred to the Health Department. We have a letter from the Health Department dated June the 15th stating that they support the legislation and appreciates the opportunity to discuss the issue, and they are here this evening. We have a report from Rec and Parks dated June 11th saying they support the bill and they welcome the opportunity to come here and participate in the discussion. So they're here. Who's here from Rec and Parks? Oh, Tom, I was looking right at you before. Tom, you can come up here and sit with.
I don't want you to see me. I don't want to be that close.
You sit with the. You sit with the real folks.
This young lady came in today and said she wanted to sit with the real folks.
That's it. And I'm looking right at Tom. Okay. And that's it. And then it was referred also to the Housing Department. We don't have a report from Housing, but we have Mr. Hessler here. So I'm sure that he will participate in the conversation as we move through the evening. And finally, we have a report from the parent agency, I guess we can call it, Department of Public Works, that is signed by Dale Thompson on behalf of Mr. Chow, dated June 9th. Mr. Chow, are you going to do the presentation? Okay, then I'm not going to read the report. I'm just going to turn it over to you. The members have the report and everyone has the report in their packet, but I think everyone's had an opportunity to read the letter, so we'll just let you move forward. There is a PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint will be available tomorrow on the on the City Council website. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilwoman Holden, Councilwoman Clark, Mr. Branch. And then, of course, I'm joined here today by a number of my staff. I just want to introduce them. First of all, my deputy, Ms. Thompson, sitting behind me. And, of course, Ms. Collins, Ms. Odendorf, and Mr. Chalmers, and as well as Ms. Uyukuma. And we are also joined with our colleagues from the DOT Health, as well as HCD and Rex and Park. So today, we're talking about the sanitation responsibility that is the DPW is in charge of. In essence, the sanitation responsibility are stated
Mr. Chow, may I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
We have a whole bunch of people here from transportation. Do we need all these folks from transportation this evening? Do we need all of them?
We need them every day, and we need them to get their rest.
Do we need them all to be here through this hearing tonight?
I would probably think the signage. I mean, we need somebody to explain about the signs.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, I think that you can decide who you want here, but the real issue is about the posting of the signs and that sort of thing. So I think we'll leave it up to your discretion, but if you don't want to keep all your folks here, you don't need to keep them all here. You can decide who you want to stay and who you want to leave, okay? Right. Thank you.
I was
sorry,
informed
Mr. Chair.
earlier he wanted to spread the wealth. That's why he wants all his staff here with him.
He's had his day when he's been up here and had all his people to sit around. So
Exactly. Okay, as I stated, the sanitation responsibility are stated pretty much simply in our code, and of course the magnitude of the services that we perform, however, are much more complex. So today I want to touch on each of the divisions within the Bureau of Solid Waste to give you a full picture of the work that we perform. In addition to the In addition to the mechanical street sweeping specifically mentioned in the city council resolution, I will go into that separately. So first of all, I want to talk about the routine services division. This division is in charge of collecting on average about 2,700 tons of refuse and 500 tons of recycling materials weekly, including some condominium and public housing. Corner cans collection from city gateways as well as neighborhoods. I'll discuss the mechanical street sweeping in a more detail later on in this presentation. Now, we are also operating 5 citizen convenience centers across the city where residents can dispose of mixed refuse, recyclables, as well as yard waste. And at just 3 of our centers, we see about 10,000 people coming through on a monthly basis. And we also support, this division also supports 1,000 community cleanups every year during the mayor's spring and fall cleanup. Specialized recycling collections such as scrap metals, electronics, used motor oils, household hazardous waste, leaves, polyurethane, as well as Christmas trees and others are as well as our recycling from schools and business and government buildings are also a responsibility of this division. And besides all that, this division also participates in the snow removal services along with our DOT. The Special Services Division, this division collects and disposes of the bulk waste from an average about 4,000 addresses on the monthly basis. They do also street and alley cleaning, graffiti removal, as well as legal dumping and park cleaning. They are also responsible for the inner harbor maintenance as well as the cleaning of the inner harbor's waterway through the skimmer boat. Also, they are responsible for cleaning and recycling services during festivals where the city is responsible or hosting. The next division I want to touch on is the property maintenance division. This division cleans and board addresses over 17,000 vacant properties location across the city every year. Proactive and reactive rat eradication efforts also is part of this division, and I'll go into more details later on in this presentation about the rat rub-out. The department responding to over 200 requests for fire debris removal annually. SIU, or stands for Special Investigation Unit of DHCD, locates illegal dumped materials, creates a request, and our crew removes those debris. We documented the cost, the weight, and other information should the responsible person be identified and charged later on. Proactive lot mowing schedule of the mayor's and city council properties for about 8,000 locations on the monthly basis, and over 2,000 DHCD referrals on the monthly basis for neglected private properties. So on the average weekly, we mow approximately 1,500 vacant lots. In calendar year 2014, we received close to 32,000 work orders for vacant lot cleaning and mowing from DHCD. Just this one division, it removes over 3,700 tons of debris in 2013, and close to 5,400 tons in 2014. So far in 2015 calendar year, the crews has removed over 2,000 tons of debris from our communities already. The next division is our disposal division. This division is in charge of the Quarantine Road landfill. Daily we see about over 1,300 tons of debris at the Quarantine Road landfill and the Northwest Transfer Station. And of course, this division is also in charge of maintaining all of the closed municipal landfills. So I'm going to go into the number of programs. Specifically, let me start with street sweeping. As you know that we rolled out this citywide, we expanded the street sweeping to a citywide program where we go into the quadrants that we previously do not sweep. Of course, the schedule is odd and even on the odd and even side of the week or the month for the side of the streets. So what challenges do we observe since the beginning of this expanded program? Well, this expanded program, that means that we have older mechanical sweepers that are now in use around sort of in a much expanded fashion all month long. So which result in frequent breakdowns where we are working with our fleet to make sure we can proactively address and or correctively in a very timely manner to get those sweepers back on the road. And of course, streets in the quadrants that had never been swept that require multiple passes from our sweeper. So this is not a street where it has been swept, one pass that we can pick up all the debris. Some of the debris has gummed up over time and require us going number of times back and forth in order to get the debris off the ground. And of course, our new drivers, because the fact that we're expanding into the quadrants as well as our just normal turnover rates. Now, the fact that we're operating these machines more frequently now, so that much more caring from the operators are required. So we're going through extensive retraining, as well as the new hires that needs to be properly trained before we put them behind the wheels on these very expensive machines, clearly to serve the citizens out there. Of course, we also encounter, as you mentioned, the vulnerability. Well, the voluntary removal of the vehicles are good in some neighborhoods, but not so good in some neighborhoods. So that obviously causing us having some difficulties in terms of fulfilling our responsibilities and duties. And of course, there are because the number of limited on-street parking, which resulted in these issues. And of course, we have, as you mentioned, with our support from our sister agency, DOT, the additional signs that are needed. Of course, the signs that in the quadrants previously were, these petitioned streets and neighborhoods, because the fact that we went to the quadrant an odd and even week of the month, those signs no longer accurately state when we will be there, so we had to remove those signs. But I'm certainly happy to report that with the DOT support, we need about 400 signs, new signs being made, so we can install them back into the quadrant for those neighborhoods we previously had petitioned street sweeping. We're about halfway through that reinstallation. So in the coming months, hopefully we can get those signs completely installed. So when we talk about the street sweeping solutions, I want to touch on first of all, we were able to obtain 11 new sweepers in this past year. Of course, we still have a number of older sweepers that still yet to be replaced in the coming years. But these added new 11 street sweepers is certainly helping out in terms of keeping these sweepers on the road. And we also schedule what we call the bi-weekly cleaning of these specialized equipment. These equipments, of course, requires caring, as I stated earlier. It's not something that they finish the work at the end of the day, they just dump stuff out and then just they go home. The bed needs to be cleaned, they need to be hosed down so they can be ready for tomorrow's operation. That's part of our retraining of our operator, just so they understand that you do need to take care of these equipment so they can maintain operational. And of course, routes. We are streamlining our routes. And at the same time, we are, through our new AVL, the city has purchased a new AVL, automated vehicle locating software. Now, this new AVL comes with features where we can install smart tablets in the vehicles that perhaps which we are working on to have routes pre-programmed. One of the issues that we encounter early on is when we get into the quadrants is the operators being unfamiliar with the routes. So they may miss the turn, they have to turn around, making U-turns and all that. That causes a lot of inefficiencies. Now with the new AVL and comes with these smart tablets, our hope is that we can pre-program these routes so the operator simply can follow the GPS, basically telling them turn right, turn left, and to make sure it's very efficiently run. At the same time, we can track and be accounted for the performance. Did they go through the street that they're supposed to go? For example, how fast they were going through. Obviously, these sweepers, you can't drive very fast over. You got to be, driving 3 to 5 miles over, just so giving the brushes enough time to pick up the debris. So all these things we can begin to track with our new AVL to bring more about the accountabilities in terms of operators out there. And of course, I mentioned about the signs, and the signs, as I mentioned, in the quadrants about halfway through. But under the expanded central district, there are additional signs needed. And I'm happy to report that we are working with DOT. We're going to be putting out a RFP very shortly to get these signs made and then get them installed as quickly as we can. We also expanded into our new program called Mechanical Alley Sweeping. We were able to purchase, in essence, 3 mini street sweepers that are able to get into the narrow alleys. So the new alley sweeping initiative is being tested in 4 areas of the city. Of course, areas were selected based on sanitation challenges, alleys of sufficient width, because we don't want any of these sweepers get stuck in the alley. That would not be good. And certainly, if successful, we are hoping that we can expand our ability to regularly sweep alleys of sufficient width. And then, of course, using technology, using mechanical devices that are able to help us reduce the manual labors, which, one, causes injury. 2, also, a sweeper can go through an alley much quicker than a crew of individuals that going through the alleys. Currently, the sweeping schedules, Monday, for example, we're going to the Bellevue Edison and Parkway Bradish area. Tuesday is Cold Spring, Homestead, Montebello, Mondawmin, and Parkview Woodbrook. Thursday is Reservoir Hills and Washington Boulevards and Pigtown. Friday is McGladrey Park, Elwood Park, and Sandtown, Winchester, Holland Market. So just want to give you some of the stats regarding to the street sweeping. For example, 2013, we were able to sweep about 94,000 miles, lane miles, and they picked up about 10,000 tons of debris. And calendar 14, we did more than 1,100,000 miles of 110,000 miles of lane miles swept, and close to and over 11,000 tons of debris. Just this year alone, between January and February, we as you can see the stats, close to 26,000 miles of streets have been swept, and we have picked up more than 3,300 tons of debris. And of course, we were able to sweep through our new alley sweeping program, 762 miles of alley swept and about 83 tons of debris removed. Next area I want to get into is the rat abatement program. As you know, that we expanded our rat abatement program beginning in 2014. In the first 8 months of implementation of this proactive 40-day rotational schedule, since October last year till June of this year, we have completed about 81, close to 82,000 proactive inspection, comparing to previous 25,000 in the same period in the previous year. We also responded to an additional 4,200 inspection in responding to 311 requests during the same period. Beginning in January 2015 and to date, we have completed 45,600 inspections and debated well over 12,000 barrels out there. Now, we recognize the fact that our current schedule is on a 40-day rotation. The goal is to get to the 20-day rotation. The fact that it's understood that the reproductive cycle of the rats is about 21 days. So what we wanted to do is get ahead of that schedule. So our ultimate goal is getting to a 20-day rotational cycle. Recognizing that with our current staff is insufficient to cover all the routes that we need to cover, basically is blanket the city. So we had a need for 8 additional personnel. Of course, we went through posting and interviewing, and we made offer to 8. Unfortunately, 5 of those 8 turned down our offer, so we will only pick up 3. But so we are now in the second round of posting. Hopefully, in the coming weeks, that we're able to fill all of these 8 positions, so we can put them through the training program. As soon as we got the full complement of our staff, we are confident that we're able to blanket the city in a 20-day cycle, as we have set the goals for ourselves. Municipal can pilot neighborhood, as you know, this is a pilot program that we rolled out. We basically selected a number of neighborhoods of the variety of setup and challenges, and to ensure that, one, we can our trash vehicles, low packers can actually get through these streets, and also we want to testing the injury rate, because these are mechanical that can be picked up by mechanical arm. We're certainly happy to report that so far what we're seeing is been good. And of course, as we near the end of this 1-year pilot program, we'll look at the number of parameters to help us to gauge the success. These parameters include the rat abatement cost, because we know trash cans without a lid is an invitation for the rats to come to a party where there's plenty of food and drinks for them. Of course, the litter survey and the dirty street alley costs, and we're looking at if there is any reduction in that aspect of it. And of course, workers' compensation claims, as I mentioned earlier. Hopefully, now we require our crews manually lift up these trash cans and dumping it. But with these new municipal cans with the mechanical pickup, we no longer had to do that. And what we're finding out also is that we did not actually see expansion of the route time. That means we are able to accomplish the routes just as quickly as we were able to do in the past. And of course, we're looking for lessons learned in implementing this program for possible challenges when we expand the service to every resident's address in the city. Well, so far we have seen great results in this pilot, as I mentioned earlier, and we believe that providing this service citywide could be one of the best investments in keeping the city clean. We are working with administration to find creative way to fund this expansion effort, which will cost the city close to $10 million to do the full expansion. But we are looking for ways and to do that. And I know we have gotten a lot of the feedbacks from our citizens, that the one from the citizens who are currently using these cans, we're getting great feedback from them, as well as the surrounding neighborhoods to these pilot neighborhoods that were, I guess, envy of the fact that their neighbor has these cans. So they're very anxious to get these, but we are working it through. Now, of course, we know that we are not going to be successful by ourselves. We can have all the resources deployed citywide. However, if not, without the citizens' help, without the citizens' support daily and second by second, minute by minute, to have good sanitation habits and all that, we are not going to be able to be very successful. So this is a true partnership that we're going to need, our citizens' involvement. We do, however, reach out with the various promotional as well as education materials to the residents. We go into the community with our community liaisons, talk about proper sanitation habits and so on, all that. And we do have key information posted on our website, as well as in our DPW calendar. You have in front of you the green folder, which consists of a number of promotional materials, as well as the calendar that we basically give it away to our citizens, help to push the messages out. And for the audience, I believe there are some extras in the back. And if any of you if we run out, and if you wish to have one, we're certainly happy to provide that. And again, I want to stress that we need partners. The partners are all of our citizens. This is not something that city government alone can achieve. We can have best plans in the world, but we simply cannot be at every corner, every second, behind every household, behind every alley, every minute of the day, to constantly picking up and cleaning up. And our hope is through the education and marketing and community outreach. As I mentioned, our goals is for citizens and visitors to do the following. One, certainly use durable container with lids to store trash, because that's important. With the lid that will prevent the rats from getting in there, which will cut off the food sources to the rats, which allows us to beginning to manage the rat population in the city. We need to continue to promote recycling. We are nowhere near our goal of 35% recycle that we are currently at, and of course, stop littering. We also, I'm sure all of us, in our daily life, we have seen our citizens at bus stops, street corners, very casually discarding litters and so on, all that. At the same time, most important is to take individual responsibility to make Baltimore cleaner and greener, take some pride in terms of our city. And again, that's my presentation. I'm certainly open to any question you might have.
Okay. I have some couple quick requests and quick questions, and then I'll go on. On page 13, you indicate that there'll be a report on the program results. You expect to have that completed in July. Can you forward that to the committee, and then we'll distribute it to everyone?
Absolutely. What I have asked staff to do is not only the municipal camp pilot, our street sweeping, lessons learned, as well as the rat rub out and all that. We give ourselves a period of time that we are going to be finalizing through some sort of white paper report. At least we can document the experiences and the lessons learned, so we can continue looking for ways to improve our operations for better services.
Okay. On page 9, how wide is that truck?
How what?
how wide is that truck on page 9? You know, you said for those little alleys?
Yes, slide 9.
Slide 9?
About 10 feet,
Huh?
about 10 foot.
The
Right.
The alley sweeping truck.
Right.
alley sweeping truck? It's less than 10, it will go into a 10-foot alley? Okay.
We can get in, but we can't get out. And that may be
Okay,
the
all
problem.
right. The, on slide 3, you're cleaning up of bulk waste and all, does that reflect the reduction of one team? Of one bulk,
No. We have multiple crews that.
but you're
that-
losing one crew, right, in
That's
fiscal
correct.
year 16?
That's correct. We are losing one team as part of the FY16 budget. We're reducing from 5 to 4 crews. We will monitor that based on the demand. We believe we can withstand the reduction. Of course, if the demand picks up, more requests is coming, we'll adjust or internally using our
So
resources.
you're still going to attempt to get 4,000 addresses every month, even with one fewer team?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay,
Again, like I said, well, because we have, this division has more than just those 4 crews, so there are others. So we'll adjust, we'll dispatch additional crews or reassign folks to help out if needed.
okay. All right. Councilwoman Holton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chow, for that presentation. I want to go to the street sweeping. Okay, the RFP
Sure.
that you're almost ready. When do you anticipate signage being in place that people will know when not to park on the street so that street sweeping can be done?
Well, as I mentioned, we're really looking at the 2 parts. First part is the one I mentioned about the 400 signs, so we're about halfway through. These are previously petitioned neighborhood. The expanded central district, that's where the bulk number of signs need to be made up. And through that RFP, we are very close. We're doing a final review of the specification, simply because the fact that I want to make sure that we pay special attention to these specs, because once the specs goes out, once it's bidded, when we get a delivery of all these signs, should there be any mistakes in it, we're gonna have problems. So we're taking extra time, being very extra careful to reviewing the specs, but with our partners in DOT.
Frank Murphy is here.
Frank's still there, okay, so it looks
Yeah.
like we got still one. And Frank is working with Val's people in terms of doing that final scrub. Matter of fact, my understanding that the consultant who is supporting DOT has just responded back with a set of comments we're gonna be addressing. So hopefully in the coming weeks, we can get that cleaned up. Then next thing we do is put on the street, and of course, the open bidding and all that. It will take some time, but that is our goal.
Now, I want to ask about some of the gateways, like Liberty Heights Avenue, Forest Park Avenue, Edmondson Avenue, Frederick Road, Northern Parkway. I mean, roads that are major roads, because, you know, I see the quadrants and all of that. Can you talk about when they're being swept?
I would like to bring Ms. Yukuma to come up to address that, and maybe Chalmers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Councilwoman, those areas are actually scheduled. They are what we call the AM and PM routes. Liberty Heights, Town Road, Edmondson Avenue, all the major gateways there, and we can send you the schedule. They are actually specifically scheduled days for all those streets, major corridors that you mentioned. Some of them are on what we call the AM schedule, which is the 5 a.m., 1 a.m. route, and some of them are in the evening schedule. what we call the PM route schedule, and we can send that information to you.
And what is the frequency of them?
Dependent. The ones you call, the ones you mentioned are not on a daily frequency, but they're on a weekly schedule.
Okay, it would be helpful to know the schedule
Yes.
because I hear constantly, you know, you look at Forest Park Avenue from the city-county line up to Garrison Boulevard, and more often than not, it just looks atrocious. And, you know, residents along there that get out and do their bit. I mean, I've taken pictures along it at different points in time and sent them in, and
I do know that the entire Garrison Avenue is not on the schedule. It's not on the AM or PM. It's a portion of it that links Forest Park Avenue, and we can give you the specific blocks.
I mean, I think it's important because I want to know, yes, but I think more importantly, people want to know because there's this sense of street sweeping that's not being done. At one point, the city appeared to be cleaner, the streets, than it does now. And so I'm just trying, the reason we did this is to get an understanding of when is this happening.
I would agree with you. Yes, there has been times where we haven't been consistent with our AM and PM mechanical street sweeping program. That is true, but we are back on track. And that was basically because we had personnel issues and we also had equipment issues. As the director just pointed out a few minutes ago, we just had an influx of 11 new sweepers into the operation. And we've also been able to fill some of our vacancies in the mechanical street sweeping division. So those are the AM/PM schedule are back on track.
Okay, and we'd love to know those schedules because I'd love to let people know, and
Yes,
you know,
madam.
everyone doesn't go to the internet to look for the schedules. The next concern I have is about, you know, it says residents voluntarily move their vehicles either to the odd or even side of the street on 2 consecutive Wednesdays each month. Are there going to be signs so that people know, you know, if someone doesn't live in that neighborhood and they're visiting or what have you on the day that it should be swept, the challenge that the comments that I get now are, oh yeah, I see the street sweeper come, it sits at the top of my street, but it never comes down the street. Or the sweeper comes and their car's parked, so they can't really sweep the street. And what people are saying is, we don't know when it's coming.
Oh, well, first of all, when we first rolled out the street sweeping, the first few months, and I would say, you know, there was a lot of learning, understanding the neighborhoods and so on, all that, as well as the continuous effort through our communications office, talking with the citizens, getting to the communities. You know, we certainly asking their help to put these signs in front of their lawns, these so-called disposable signs, and so on, all that. We have issues, as we mentioned earlier, with personnel, with the equipment itself. So we were very inconsistent at the beginning, but I think the recent weeks and the last few months, we have been gotten much better. However, we do recognize there are neighborhoods that's going to require signs. And so really the fact that we are, the 400 signs I talked about earlier about the previous petitioned area as well as expanded central district, there are going to be other streets we fully recognize ultimately we might need to install signs in order to enforce the schedule so we can go in there and do the sweeping that we need to do. However, it was a conscious sort of decision on our part, recognizing that it would take some time for the signs to be made, and at that time is months and years, as we all know, and we didn't want to wait. So going in, we recognize there's going to be some challenges that we're going to be facing with the parked cars, difficult neighborhoods, and so on, all that. But we thought to have it out there is better not have it out there. But at the same time, we continue to improve over time through lessons learned as well as getting additional signs made up. So in the coming months, we will get into a much better state in terms of that steady state in terms of street sweeping. But I'm asking for the citizens' patience. We understand their frustration on their part to see, well, you're supposed to come, but you didn't come. But we are much better. We are sweeping about 70% of the routes now. As you can see, 70%, that means we should have 30% of the routes that we continue to make it more efficient. And I think the added technology such as ABL, tablets, and all that will give us another added dimension in terms of fulfilling our responsibilities in the coming months.
That's great for the 70%, but it's the 30% that this has been in place for a year now that feel like there's nothing in place. And so, you know, you mentioned, so you talk about the rat rub-out program. Every 40 days citywide, going to 20 days, and you needed 8 positions filled. You went through the process of putting out the process. You extended 8 offers, and you got 3 takers. And so that just says another delay. Once again, we say what we're going to do, but we're not in position to do it. And so when you say you're doing the pilot trash can program, and then you say, and it will cost $10 million for full expansion, the question is $10 million from where?
Exactly. Well, first of all, the pilot program, well, all 3 of these programs you have mentioned are very important strategy for us. From a department perspective, we want to shift from a very 311-driven organization to a much more proactive. Proactive being whether it's street sweeping, whether it's the rat rub out, as well as the municipal cans. I mean, we all recognize all those 3 are programs that will help clean up the city. But as you know, that from a budgetary constraint, as well as the hiring, as well as the training, the skill sets, and all that, we as a city, it's a continues to evolve, continue to improve. But as I said earlier, we recognize that we are not going from one day, yesterday, and today all of a sudden everything is running perfectly, 100%. We go in there, recognize there are pitfalls, there are shortcomings, and so on and all that, but we didn't want to wait. This is from my perspective, is a shifting of culture of my own people, my staff. So it's a mindset. So to transform them to be a proactive organization where they're thinking proactively, when they go into the neighborhood, they no longer simply say, well, my work order says, pick up this. But you turn around, there's something else they could have picked up. So those are the culture change I'm talking about. And that is the transformation that we need, that's going to require a little bit of time and effort and patience. But I'm convinced that we have good programs in place. I'm convinced that through our tireless effort in terms of looking for continuous improvement, recognize where the pitfalls are, recognize where the lessons learned are, we'll get better, and we'll get better at it over time. The fact that the quadrant, we had never swept, the fact that we are out there about in the quadrant, understanding from a neighborhood to neighborhood perspective, one neighborhood can say, well, my street didn't get swept this week. But from an overall program perspective, the fact that we are out in the quadrant, we are actually sweeping hundreds and thousands of miles and then picking up tens and thousands of tons of trash, we are taking litters off the street. But again, as I said earlier, we can stay and continue to spin our wheels and working as hard, as efficient as we can through our own internal efficiency gains. But without the citizens' support and citizens' awareness, we as a city is not going to be able to achieve the goal that we all desire to have, which is a clean city.
I'd like to recognize Councilman Bill Henry from the 4th District, who's joined us, member of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we're also joined by the Mayor's Legislative Director, Mr. Andy Smulyan. Councilwoman Clark.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chow, for your presentation. I just wanted to make sure that we're not getting ready to post signs in the non-central area, in the quadrants that are not the central area. So I have neighborhoods, or at least one, that is going to be, is in the central quadrant. It's Better Waverly. But it's never, so it's not getting the voluntary program because it's online to get the
Expanded
mandatory
program.
program with the signs, with the towing. And they do ask me when somebody will come to sweep. And they're part of, you know, where Waverly is. So it will be posted, I presume.
That's correct, under the expanded program.
It's on the program to be posted.
That's correct. That's part of the RFP that will be going out.
The what?
The RFP for the additional signs for the expanded program.
That's what, I'm sorry, I missed that. I wasn't paying close enough attention. So we're putting out a bid for some contractor to make the signs?
That's correct, because first of all, DOT has the sign shop, but the volume of signs that we need
Oh, so
are
many.
just too huge for them to handle besides their day-to-day needs. So we
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed page 8.
right, so
Okay.
we're putting out a bid.
I,
so we
I,
can-
I didn't hear you say that, but, so they're part of, they're,
Absolutely.
everybody that's gonna be posted,
in the central district.
that is not posted now, it'll all come in at the same time and that'll get spread
Correct.
out. When will that be?
Well, the RFP, as I said earlier, we're getting very close. We're doing the final scrub. So hopefully in the
Yes.
coming weeks, we can put it out on the street and go through the 60-day bidding process and so on, all that. So in the coming months, I would say probably early next year or so that we should have the signs
Whoa.
delivered.
I mean, can we get some of that, like, could we get, like, Better Waverly, could we get them swept in the meantime? As a voluntary?
Well, what we can do is perhaps we can get those specific addresses from you after this hearing, and we will
I
take a
mean,
look
if
at
you,
it.
not to create chaos or anything, but they,
Yeah, but one thing I wanted to be very careful because we are learning the quadrants, so I don't want too many moving parts in there.
I got you. I understand, I heard what you were saying about the DGS and the machines knowing where they're going. That wasn't a big issue with me. I need to get an answer to them.
They
I don't
are,
want to have it be December, but if it, at least it's an answer, and it's not going to happen before then, right? The
knowing the,
posting of all the mandatory routes.
correct. Now, I'm just looking at, now it's middle of June, right? We're gonna go through,
And then
put it on the street.
December is 6
30-day
months
to
out.
60-day bidding. Then we're gonna wait for the bid to come in. We're gonna have to evaluate and award an NTP. So we're looking at probably.
And then they have to be posted,
Then they have to be actually installed out
and then
there.
they have to, be reposted when there's a
Correct.
couple of them mixed up and everybody goes
Right,
crazy.
so as you can see, that's why, and I know our citizens out there are sort of listening to this, well, gee whiz, you
Yes.
should have probably waited until you get all the things installed, then, begin. But as I said
I'm
earlier,
just
it's better
asking
to have it
because-
now
yeah.
than,
So what I'd like to say, just from my own perspective, though,
Mm-hmm.
is that the voluntary program is successful, it seems, based on a number of conditions, but I would never want to see that voluntary program posted by the city. Because the next thing that would happen would be ticketing by the city. And we don't want that, and that's not going to happen. But I just want to put that on the public
Right.
record.
it is not our intent to post signs citywide. only
Correct.
for those challenged areas that as we gain experience in the quadrants, we'll identify those and we will work it through.
So, you mean, so you might expand the posted areas,
In the
the
quadrants.
mandatory areas outside the central district?
That's correct.
But you'll do that by the petition process, like the way we
Either
always
that
do?
or through our own experience, recognizing there's a huge challenge on our end. But would like to continue the petition process that is in place right now.
Yeah, that way people get to vote up or
That's
down
correct.
whether they want an area, whether they want a block posted for a mandatory sweeping, because one, you can be towed away if you're parked there, and two, it's not just 2 Wednesdays a month, it's twice a week. It's at least twice a week, like throughout a month. And sometimes it's twice a week per side per a block. So that's very intensive, and it's for the heavier, more congested, densely occupied areas. So
Absolutely, we do recognize, like I said, we have the petition process in place.
yeah,
It's been working well, and and
that's
we
what
do
that's
agree
how you're
with the.
doing that.
Right, we are, any neighborhoods that if they petition, they're able to get the percent of folks to sign on and all that, and through the petition process, we'd be more than happy to expand on that regard.
Okay, so when you're ready to expand, since it's been a long time, I would be very grateful if you would somebody would come to the Better Waverly Community Organization. I think that's the only neighborhood I have that's in the central, no, Chum too, because I think that anything south of 33rd on the east side is going to be mandatory posting eventually, because they're
Part of the
the
central.
new central district.
Correct.
So let me just say that before the posting happens, we need a lot of public awareness of that.
Right.
But a lot of Chum, for example, already has posted streets, so people are used to that. But as they expand in that neighborhood, there need to be warnings before people start getting towed.
Understand. I just from a philosophical perspective, to me is if the citizens can do it voluntarily, that will give us the sustainability that we need. Enforcement is a tool that we need, but if we rely on it 100% of the time, then it's not what the citizen wants to do, rather than I've been told to do. I'd much rather
right.
have they wanted to do it, because that would be able to allow us to build the true partnership that we need to build in terms of the culture change that we've
Well, I
been
mean,
talking about.
Mr. Chow, we all tell our own stories, but I mean, first of all, this works best in neighborhoods that have really bought into it, like Remington, and they put up their own signs on the 2 Wednesdays that they paid for, that they designed, and they have volunteers on the different blocks who put them out. And basically it says, it's Wednesday, get out of here. And it works. So that as we go along, I think that the more that the city representatives, et cetera, who go to meetings in communities need to really have a discussion about this mechanical sweeping voluntarily, and see if the community would get engaged the way Remington and a couple others are. And then when they do, let them create their own way to let each other know it's Wednesday. I live on a street like many other streets in Baltimore. It's one way. There are 60 households on one block. It's one way north. And across the street from where you can park is no parking. So we don't have any place to go. because we're surrounded by streets that are doing the same thing. We all have to evacuate and go someplace else at the same time, but we can't park where you're not allowed to park because they told us we would get tickets. So we can't move from the permitted side of this long block to the do not, no parking side because we'll all get tickets.
Understand?
So in a situation, and then we're surrounded by like 39th Street and others, Charles Street and things. So they're all switching sides and we don't have any place to go. So by and large, we don't do it. But it's a nice plan, and it would be nice if, they would come up and do the park, the side of the street, and I think they do sometimes, come up and do the side where nobody can park anyway. That would help.
Okay.
It makes it cleaner, but there are a lot of places in Baltimore that no matter how much we all want to work with this program, logistically it's not possible. There's no place to go with your cars because everybody is going at the same time.
Correct.
But I like the program. I think it's beneficial. I think it's expanding, and I'd like to help it do that. And I think the way is to look at the Remington model and say, let's go to the neighborhoods. You have outreach workers at Public Works who are very highly respected in the communities. They go to all the meetings.
Right.
And they would be the perfect persons to talk to at all these meetings about how can we improve the voluntary sweeping in this neighborhood? What are your ideas?
Got it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Branch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two questions. One is going to be for the director, and the other one will be for Mr. Hessler. Let me ask the director the one I would like to ask him first. According to the citywide sweeping program, in that southeast quarter, when I go to community association meetings, I can safely tell my constituents that on those little small streets that don't have the signs, that the clean sweep days will be, the odd side, first Wednesday, even side, second Wednesday. Correct. And it's not enforceable, so that means if they don't move, they won't be ticketed.
It's a volunteer program.
Voluntary, okay. Great, thanks. My second one is for you, Mr. Hessler. If the city ordinance state from the curb to the midpoint of the alley is the responsibility of the owner or occupant that's living in that house, then how come we have solid waste cleaning up alleys when if both sides do what they're supposed to do, then they wouldn't have to clean an alley?
Mr. Hessler, your microphone's live.
According to the city ordinance, it says from the curb to the midpoint of the alley is the responsibility of the person that lives in that house. So anything that's in, say for instance, if there's a stove in the back of that house in that alley, then the inspector is supposed to write up a violation for someone who have a stove that's on that portion of the side of the alley that he's in. If I'm wrong, correct me.
Councilman Branch, I think Director Chow hit on it earlier in that we all need to work together on this. It's not a DPW mission or a housing mission, or a city mission. It's the residents doing their part to put the trash out, store the trash properly, clean up their yards, clean up the streets, clean up the gutters.
Jason, you didn't answer my question. That wasn't my question. My question was, if from the curb to the midpoint of the alley is the responsibility of that homeowner, and on both sides they do what they're supposed to do, then solid waste wouldn't have to clean an alley. So that means that if there's trash on that side of the line where that occupant is living, then somebody should be issued a environmental citation ticket. I'm hoping maybe we could, if we're sending a message home that you're supposed to clean in front of your property or assess it to that landlord, then I think once they get hit a couple times in the pocket, then they'll probably comply with the rule. I don't think it's fair for other people to have to pay the price for what someone is doing, and then you have the city of Baltimore coming and cleaning up. I mean, my colleague, Councilwoman Holton, just asked, where would they get the $10 million at for the trash cans? I mean, where's the money? I mean, if they're spending their money cleaning up these alleys, and we're not doing anything to people who, I mean, these are violations, and they should be. I believe, maybe I'm wrong, they should be cited, or there should be a message sent.
I mean, if the question is towards enforcement, then yes, we do enforcement. We do issue citations for dirty alleys, dirty streets, as well as dirty yards. All those sanitation-related things are enforced.
Is there any way you can share with us any data on how many tickets that was issued to people who had violations outside of the yard or on the front of their on the front of their property?
Trying to think of how the data is kept. I don't know that I can give you the specific location of the violation outside of which properties they are, and that data is available on Open Baltimore, and we can of course make it available.
From my
to you.
knowledge, you all have wrote up something like 40,000 tickets a year.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
From my knowledge, you've written up over 40-something sites. Well, whenever many of the inspectors come to the meetings and they're preaching to the community association, they always state this high volume of citations that they've issued out. I mean, it should be easy to define.
Yeah, I can give you the number of citations issued directly related to sanitation. I don't know that I can break it out into how many are because a trash can was not properly stored in the backyard versus the trash can or the trash was in the alley or in the gutter.
Well, let me ask you this then. How many citations was issued to people who live in those homes who have grass that's growing up in those alleys or on the front?
So grass,
Have high weeds. I live in the city, and in the alleys or the cracks, you may have weeds or grass that's growing up in the alleys. And sometimes we may ask some of the other agencies to come out and cut in front of those properties. All I'm asking is how many citations was given out to the people who have that grass growing. I mean, when that grass is growing like that on the fronts and in those alleys, to me, that makes the community looks terrible. The community look terrible.
yeah, so high grass and weeds are handled in two different ways, either through citation or through violation notice. And it depends on whether the property is occupied or if it's a vacant lot or a vacant building. So for occupied properties, they would generally receive a citation. I don't have those numbers with me, but I believe last year it was approximately 16,000 citations for high grass and weeds. But then for the vacant lots and the vacant buildings, we issue violation notices, which order the person to correct it and gives the city authority to make corrections and lien the property if the owner does not. And that's what gives Mr. Cuomo's team the authority to go on the property and take the corrective action, because nobody really wants to wait around till the owner gets around to cutting it, particularly if it's abandoned for all intents and purposes.
But that's only after you all issue the work order for them to go on to the.
Correct. We issue a violation notice giving the owner the proper notice under the law to make the corrections. And if they do not make the corrections, then we create a work order for property management to go cut the grass and clean up the yard.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Councilman.
Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm sorry that I missed this section in the presentation, but on page 11, the rat abatement program, just checking in again on the idea of being able to, when we investigate complaints about rat burrows on people's private property on in yards, instead of leaving them a note saying, please send this note back so that we can come onto your property, can we leave them a note that says, if you don't send this back in 5 days explaining why, we will come onto your property and bait the rat holes that we're seeing?
Councilman Henry, this suggestion came up during the budget hearing, and we took note of that, and we are having discussions with housing as well as the law department to looking for a more proactive way, as you suggested, rather than waiting for someone to contact us, which they might never contact us.
Right.
So we are looking into that suggestion. We take it to heart that it will help us to be more successful. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you keep me in the loop on that? Because otherwise, it's just going to be a question every time.
I would say, one of the objective of the proactive rat abatement program is to get a sort of a handle on the rat population. Right now, we are able to go into the alleyway, the public right-of-ways, and my instruction to the crew is simply, if you see a barrel, bait it. I mean, that's what it is. But we also recognize there are barrels on private properties. So if we do a very good job in terms of the public space, but we don't handle on the private side, they simply just going to go to the private side. And so that means ultimately we're still going to fail because they're still going to find home. So we got to do it the both public side as the private side. So your suggestion is an excellent one. We are definitely exploring it because we believe that can help us to be more proactive to reach our goal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up on that. A lady approached me the other day. Her alley has feral cats, and she didn't want the alley baited because the cats were keeping the rats out, and they were all feeding the cats. So they didn't want the cats killed because the cats were taking care of the rats, and they liked all these wild cats running back there. But I really do support the opt-out rather than opt-in option. I think it makes more sense to, but it would. Okay, any other questions before we take public testimony? Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Chow.
Thank you.
Ms. Trueheart. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you? Thank you for the presentation and holding this hearing. I think it's important. Our city is dirty, and we know it. There are opportunities to clean the city. And, the resolution in and of itself only goes so far. And it's a start in this conversation. But one of my chief concerns is that our gateways, as we're discussing them, many of them have trash cans on them. And I think the biggest contributor to the filth in the streets on those gateways is the overflowing trash cans on the corner. And that we need to up the cycle to empty those cans, because there's any day of the week that I can go stand out on the bus stop that I catch daily to come here, and the can is overflowing. The trash is going into the street, okay? Now we can talk about people who have no home training and throw their garbage out the car window and everything, but I think a bigger contributor is the trash can. And we want people to put trash in the trash can. But if you don't empty the trash can, it then perpetuates the problem. So I want to know what's the schedule for emptying the trash cans on the corner, and can we up it more frequently?
Okay. I think one of the, and we can get that information, one of the issues that we have, and I know because I have lots of gateways in my district, and we've gone through this problem over and over again, is that the cans are really litter cans. They're not trash cans. And what people do is they use them for their trash. People come and
It's
take
like
the can.
garbage is garbage. You want to call it litter, I call it trash.
No, there's a
filth.
substantial difference when people take the trash
It still needs to be picked up,
they take-
Councilman.
No, I understand, but what I'm saying is, when you start allowing people to take the trash from their home and start stacking
But we're
it
not
into those
allowing it.
bags.
It happens. So nobody's giving them permission
more-
to do that. But my point,
Okay.
let's not
I'm-
change the
I'm not
subject, please. This is, can
Okay.
I?
No, go ahead.
I'm saying that the litter, the trash, the garbage, however it got in that can, when it becomes full, it needs to be emptied.
Okay.
That's my point.
Okay.
And now, if you want to talk about why people are putting their home garbage in there, that's a different issue. That's not my issue. My issue is
I
when I
understand.
stand on the corner and the garbage can full of litter, trash, or wherever it came from is overflowing, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think the frequency of picking up that can and emptying it is high enough.
Okay. We'll have somebody address that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The other issue is related to the mechanical street sweepers. Now, the 11 new machines that we got came as a result of, I believe, the stormwater fee. So we did something good with that money. Okay, now, am I hearing we need more? So if we need more, there's a pot of money sitting there, and I'm not sure why we're not using that money. You've got this money to clean this city because of the stormwater fee that was imposed. And if we need money to help clean this city, then use that money. And I'm not sure why it's not being used to do this. I agree. I have a problem with the $10 million fee that's about to be heaped upon us to buy these new smart trash cans. I don't need a smart trash can. I think that's the most hilarious thing going right now. And then you're going to turn around and tell us that we need $10 million more. Let's figure out how to do trash removal in this city without gouging the citizens. You know, the other thing that's not in this little briefing here is this new solid waste enterprise fund that's going to come hit us, where you no longer pay for the trash pickup out of my taxes, but now you're going to heap another separate fee on top of us to clean up what ought to already be cleaned up, okay, in the city, because you're going to give him another pot of money. Another pot, he's already got one pot of money that he controls without any input or oversight, okay? And that's called the water and wastewater utility, okay, that needs some oversight. I have never heard of a scenario where you give the same person who has the requirement the ability to determine how much he charges for that requirement, as well as the solution, as well as the timeline when he decides to spend it.
Okay. Well, that's a separate issue.
No,
We're not-
this is waste
well,
management.
We're not, I understand, but we're not here on water, wastewater tonight.
But we're here on trash.
No. Okay, but I understand. We're not here on the enterprise fees.
Okay.
Okay.
But I'm explaining that the same bureaucratic mess is going to happen when you authorize the solid waste fee. We can't even pick up trash now.
Okay.
Now,
got
until
it.
we figure out how to pick up trash,
Right.
you don't need an automated trash pickup system. Okay? What's wrong with the hardworking men and women getting out on the corner on a regular basis and picking up trash? And when you can do that, then you can talk about more money. Okay? Because as far as I'm concerned, if there's a trash can that's overflowing on the corner, that's why the street's dirty. That's a major contributor. And I think we need some answers. And I don't know what y'all can talk about your alleys and everything, okay? All right, let's pick up the trash. Let's do it on a regular schedule and get it done. Because all of this crap in here, this I'm automating the vehicles and I can locate them. Pick up the trash.
Thank you. Councilman Henry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was actually going to address one of Ms. Trueheart's questions by checking in with Valentina, because my recollection was that the gateway cans are supposed to be picked up twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon. That is the official schedule. I don't think there's anybody in this room who doesn't acknowledge the fact that we struggle keeping it at all cans at all times, every day after day after day, but that's the schedule. Yeah. But I'm tempted to just keep the floor because evidently there's conversation going on over there. So, hey, about the municipal can program, because I'm sorry I missed that portion of the presentation as well. Did you talk about the what it would mean for crew size on the trucks if the municipal can was expanded citywide?
No, we haven't talked about that. I mean, that is something we need to design, obviously, but we recognize that the fact that rather than manual labor, we can use mechanical devices, that obviously has an impact to the crew size, but that needs to be, if we are to expand citywide, we got to design that.
Because I mean, I don't know what was presented today, but I know that previous conversations about the municipal can program, the attraction of cans that were uniform and rolled and could be at each house was that they would be able to go over to trucks that had the arms on them so that the trucks could do the heavy lift of the dumping the trash into the truck, and that down the line that could have the repercussions of requiring fewer human beings to be riding on the trucks.
Well, I mean, the fact that you're still going to need a labor to get the cans to the truck, you're still going to need a driver. I mean, it's pretty standard as far as, 2 people per truck scenario. I mean, with these mechanical devices, it doesn't get to a point where a driver alone can do this, because you have to get
that would require a level of, that would require, as Ms. Trueheart implied, an extraordinarily smart can that would get itself from the private property of the homeowner or the renter, and it would roll itself over to the truck, get picked up, dumped into the truck, and then would roll itself back onto the property. That would be great, but that's probably more along the lines of the level of technology that would also give us flying cars that fold up into briefcases. So, yeah. Okay.
So I guess to sort of address your question is that I want to make sure that when we look at savings, for example, when a new program rolls out and so on, we're not only looking at the hard costs, we're looking at the soft costs as well, because they are the soft costs being the benefits, the reduction in workmen's comp. The convenience, those need to be equated into the equation. So rather than just looking everything from the surface, how many dollars we save, but then actually the efficiency gain itself has soft costs.
That was actually that was the other thing I was going to ask is you've already done the analysis of how much we lose every year in terms of productivity because, as Mr. Hart referred to, the hardworking men and women who are tossing this trash up there injure themselves in the course of their duties, and that's not good for them, and it's not good for meeting the schedule of picking up other people's trash. Exactly. So if you can literally take that load off of them, then that should have a positive effect not only on the workers themselves but on the bottom line.
Correct. Try to create a win-win-win scenario.
I didn't plan that one out. That just came out that way. I swear to God. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Branch and then Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just quick question, and I wanted to know how do I go about getting some of these to distribute to my constituents in my district?
Absolutely,
I
just
think
let us
that-
know. We can get as many to you as possible.
Okay, thank you so much.
Councilwoman Clark.
I don't want to jump the gun on these smart trash cans and, all that. But basically, it's not right now and all that kind of stuff. But I just would like to say that this city should not be moving in the direction of paying to have our trash picked up. And if that's where this is leading, which I'm not even asking you to answer, it's not gonna happen. Because I'm not saying that to please a crowd of Kim, although I'm always anxious to. I'm saying it because right now we have a hard enough time when people aren't paying to have their trash picked up, getting it put out in a proper manner that to be picked up. I'm just saying that we are not a gated community. We're a big city, and to pay if there's a game plan that says I know how to reduce the tax rate so it looks as if it's like the surrounding subdivisions, take solid waste out of the equation and reduce solid waste as tax supported. But then how do you pay for having the trash picked up? You charge property owners or whatever. I'm not saying that's where anyone's trying to go or anything else, but I sure don't want to be late to that discussion, and I might already be. We are not a gated community. We are, there's a high transit, people move in, people move out, people go buy a house after they've been renting, people move a lot. And it's a complicated city, and what happens if we went to such a system and somebody didn't pay to have their trash picked up? You know darn well we'd pay somebody from the city to go pick it up because people are screaming. In other words, I think we're doing a good job of solid waste. I think alley cleaning, and I respect my colleagues' code enforcement issue, but I also know what some alleys look like in my district. And I know that those little 80-year-old ladies who are calling me or who I'm stopping to talk to on their porch did not drop that sofa and mattress in their own back alley. I mean, not in their wildest dreams or even with, help. It just didn't happen that way. I need it out of their lives because they don't deserve to have it there. And we are dumping grounds. We're dumping grounds in our alleys for a lot of these fly-by-nighters who clean your garage for $25 and dump the load 2 blocks away in somebody's alley. That also is not to blame for the need to have some help getting it cleaned up. So I just thought I would say that. Just that moving in that direction is, and the other thing is, and this is a really, all of us came up in a city where we learned, not every one of us, but a lot of people in the city government came up through the ranks, and they were able to get a job in city government, and then to move up the ranks to have, as they learned their skills and all. That's who we depend on. We depend on the people in city government who are dedicated to their work, like you are. they're the most important things about city services. And the more we mechanize or hire contractors, and it's okay for the signs, but the more we do that, the less we take out of who we are, what's the most important thing about us. People have generations of city service, and they're proud of it. And they're proud of working for Baltimore. I am proud of that I work for the city of Baltimore. I just want to say all those things. I don't know.
Thank you, Rudy.
I just wanted to say it before it's some 11th hour.
Thank you for your comment, and by the way, I am proud of working for Baltimore City.
I know, and you show it, and we appreciate that very much. I wouldn't make a big speech to somebody that I didn't have all the respect in the world for.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you, Mr. Chow. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have anyone else who has signed up to speak this evening. Is there anyone else that wants to speak that has not spoken? Frank, do you have something you want to add? Come on up.
The last man standing from DOT.
Find out if he's speaking from the public. Yeah, or not.
Okay.
Okay, I'd just like to add a couple comments. I
I-
think, first of all, I want to
Frank,
commend.
you're on TV, so identify yourself.
Oh, I'm Frank Murphy, Baltimore City Department of Transportation Senior Advisor. First, I want to commend the council for having this hearing because I think this is an extremely important program, and I think it's very important that there's information flow between those of us in the agencies and the council, and I think it's a great idea. Also want to commend my colleagues in DPW. I don't know whether the public understands what a tremendously ambitious program this is to expand to citywide. I mean, there are lots of neighborhoods that have never had street sweeping. It means we have to kind of change the mindset about people being able to move their cars so we can take care of those streets. And I know, I've been working with Rudy and Val and John on this project, and I understand how ambitious it is. And of course, any big program that you roll out is going to have some glitches that have to be adjusted, and we're working on some of those now, such as replacing the signs that were purposely taken down because we've, found that, well, okay, maybe this is areas where we really do need the signs and do need the enforcements, and we'll continue to work with DPW to make changes like that, but I think this is, I don't know whether people realize what an enormous program this is, and I just really think our DPW colleagues are to be commended by taking on this responsibility. Having said all that, just a couple of quick comments. We are in the process of replacing a lot of the signs that had been deliberately taken down under the hope that these were areas that could then transition to a non-signed voluntary compliance area. And we put 316 of them back up. We have a couple hundred more to go. But I think we do have a couple things that we could all think about that may help our colleagues have a little easier time going down the road. One is to work with the more suburban districts, I guess that's what we call the quadrants, to, have faith and to try to voluntarily move the cars so we can do the cleaning, or when I say we, are my, colleagues at DPW. And also just some of the facts that Rudy put out about the tonnage that's being picked up were a little sobering, and I think what it tells us is we're still going in the wrong direction in terms of our citizens improperly disposing of trash, whether it's throwing a soda can out the car window or dumping trash onto a vacant lot. I think somehow we need to make it fashionable to be clean again. And, some of you remember the trash ball campaign of the Schaefer administration, and that was a success in what maybe otherwise has been kind of a downward trend of, increasing littering. But if there's some way that we all could impart that message to, and I don't know how to do it, but, maybe something over the next 10 years we can figure out a way to make it not fashionable to throw litter. It would do us all good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else? All right. Members of the committee, as you all know, and for those who watch, in a resolution like this, we do have a voting session, and all that voting session is to actually confirm that we did, in fact, conduct the hearing. So if there is a motion on this resolution, I will take the motion.
Move the resolution.
Okay, we have a motion by
Without
Council.
recommendation.
I didn't hear the last part. We have a motion by Councilman Henry with a sub rosa comment, and we have a second by Councilwoman Clark. Okay, motion favorable. Councilman Kraft votes yes. Councilwoman Clark? Councilman Curran is absent. Councilman Henry?
Yes.
Councilman Branch?
Yes.
Okay, we have 4 votes in the affirmative. We have no negatives. We have 1 absent. We have no abstention. This bill will go to second and final reader on Monday, June 22nd. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the hearing on Council Resolution 150220R. We stand adjourned. Thank you all for attending the hearing. Please check the area around your seat to make certain you brought everything that you have brought with you, that you take it all. Mr. Janetta, thank you for your patience. I am sorry there were no questions for you. We'll,
That's okay, I'm happy to participate with our partner agencies.
thank you very much. We owe you. Okay. Good night, everybody.